In today's video, you will learn how to write an essay about the environment. This will work for classes such as sociology, political science, natural science, any other discipline, or even for work. Now, the biggest challenge when writing an essay is coming up with material, to produce material. And the easiest way to keep your ideas flowing is to break your topic into subtopics. That is the secret. So let's say our subject is the environment. Now, it is a vast topic, but let's see how we could break it down. So the easiest way to break up a topic is to use the power of 3. So let's see, what are some of the parts of environment? What can the environment be broken down into? Well, number 1, climate change. This will answer the question, how is climate changing? Next, biodiversity, all the life on this planet. This will answer the question, how is animal life affected? Including human life too. And pollution. This will answer the question, how does pollution affect the world, how it affects people, how it affects us. So environment is a very vast topic, and you could write an essay on it. In fact, you could write a book on it, on the environment. And if you would write a book about it, or if you have to write a longer essay, or if you have to write a really big paper, or a dissertation even, or a thesis, you could break it down into these parts. However, a better thing to do is probably to pick one of these aspects of the environment and write an essay on it. Let's try and see how this would work. So let's say we would pick global warming. Now, it's a big enough issue in itself, and let's see how we could write an essay about just global warming. Well, first of all, we're going to use the power of 3. What could be 3 aspects of global warming that we could talk about? When you're writing about global warming, you could divide it into these 3 aspects. Number 1, the causes. This would answer the question, what causes global warming? So we're talking about the causes. It is similar to talking about the past. So what happened prior to today that made today the reality? Which leads us to the next part, which is the effects, which is what's going on today. This will answer the question, how is the planet affected? So what are the effects that we're observing today that are results of the causes in the past? You see, so this is similar to the past and the present. And next is predictions. So now that is the future. So this will answer the question, what is the prognosis? So what is the prognosis? And you could talk about what would be the prognosis if no action is taken, if we do nothing about the environment. What would be the prognosis for our planet? And what would be the prognosis if we do take action? So you could actually have 2 nice little subsections going in the predictions part. What will be the prognosis if we do take action, and what if we don't? Make sense? Okay. Now here's an example of how you could structure an essay about an environmental issue. Now here's a sample structure. Let's say we're writing about global warming, and we're obviously using the power of 3, and these would be the 3 sections. There would be causes, effects, and predictions. So what can we do to subdivide each of these sections further to make our life easier writing this essay? So in other words, how would we come up with subsections? Let's see. So in section 1, the causes. Now, what are some of the causes of the global warming as we know it today? So the 3 aspects, 3 causes, 3 things that cause the global warming are things like people, meaning us, our activity, industry, which is the work of corporations, and nature, the natural causes, because the sun does indeed shine, and it is known that throughout the history, the climate has been changing. We actually know that climate does change naturally, because in the past, when we didn't have all the manufacturing and everything with the big corporations, we still had climate fluctuations. Now, in the next part, what could we do in the next part? We could talk about people and nature in the effects. Why? Because we wouldn't really talk about the industry. I took out industry from here because I don't really care, who really cares how global warming affects big corporations and their profits. Here we will talk about how it affects us human beings and how it affects our environment, the nature around us. Make sense? Now you could definitely come up with a third one. You would just have to think a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. You could divide nature into 2 things. You could divide it into animals and plants. Next, predictions. We'd probably do the same thing. If we don't do something about it, how would we as human beings be affected? And how would our environment be affected? Meaning the nature, meaning animals and plant life. Hope this makes sense. Just don't forget to use the power of 3.